We are talking real estate at the moment, at the very point that I've had a friend message me and say, I've had a dream that you bought a two-bed in Riyadh. I stayed with you when you were travelling for work and did your ironing. I like the ironing bit. I'm not entirely sure about my investment in Riyadh. But the man who is sitting in front of me is probably a man who would know. Although we are focusing on the commercial this morning. But whether it is Abu Dhabi, whether it is Dubai, whether it is Saudi Arabia, the property boom just marches on. We are talking to the guys from Chesterton's. They have seen some double-digit rises in some very big markets. And sitting in front of me this morning is Andrew Elliott. He is the director of their commercial agency. Andrew, good morning. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Brandy.
Slightly off-piste start, but that was also a very timely WhatsApp to receive. You guys have seen commercial leasing activity grow by 50% in the first quarter of this year.
And fortunately or unfortunately for some, the market continues to grow, as we've said. We're seeing demand come in from all over the world. It's not just necessarily Dubai. But I also feel that we're getting a lot of companies within the UAE looking for larger spaces. So we're sort of looking at companies sort of upsizing, which is obviously puts all our stats on the residential side into favour with the amount of people moving to Dubai.
Okay, let's break that down. Let's start with that 50% rise. That's for all commercial.
So we see it across, we obviously cater to warehousing, we're catering to office space, we're also catering to retail spaces, and we see a lot of that in those markets.
Okay, let's look at the office. What's the rise?
Generally, I mean, we started from a very high point, so there wasn't a huge amount of room to grow from. But if you look at where we are in occupancy at the moment, I would say we're probably close to 95, 96% across Dubai at the moment in office space.
Okay, you've seen a 63% rise in Q1 renting. Where are people finding that space?
People are starting to move outside of the city. If you look at where we've got office space sitting, I mean, buildings in Motor City that we used to sit at sort of 50, 60% occupancy, we're seeing high rises there. People are moving to DIP. People are looking at places where they can actually get lower cost rents. People are seeing the cost of rents in sort of Business Bay. One of the big issues we're seeing at the moment is obviously traffic in Business Bay, and people are looking to move out of those areas.
Okay.
Expo City is a new place that people are looking at. Dubai South are places that people are looking at. And there's just generally where can we find space and where can we move to?
Can they find the space in those areas?
Yes and no. There is spaces available out there. Sometimes you have to put a bit of investment in to get those spaces up to what you would like. But definitely there is still office space out there. I mean, if you look at your main sort of areas like DIFC, Sheikh Zayed Road, downtown, there's definitely no space around there. But like I say, secondary locations, we've still got spaces available.
Are they still secondary locations if fancy new buildings are going up?
I feel the secondary locations that we used to talk about are going to become mainline. If you look at where we're starting to see a lot of off-plan launches, specifically on Mohammed bin Zayed Road. So we've seen a lot of space come up in Arjan. We're starting to see stuff come up in Marjan. We've had 4 or 5 buildings launched in Motor City. We've got 4 or 5 buildings launched in JVC. So what we used to call secondary, I mean, it's back in the old days where we used to look at Arabian Ranch as being in the middle of nowhere. Those are now becoming sort of main areas to be in. And I think there's a push for people from Sheikh Zayed Road to look at Mohammed bin Zayed Road because they feel with the amount of residential space coming up there, it's going to move the market or move business out that way.
You've named a number of communities that I would have thought of, Arjan, Motor City, as being residential, and we're talking about office space.
Yeah.
Are we finally seeing a sort of a work-live hybrid? People working and living in the same spot.
And I think that's definitely going to happen. I feel we can't continue to build on Sheikh Zayed Road. I feel that with all the communities that are coming in sort of Dubai land in that area, we're going to have to provide commercial space out there. People don't want to commute through Hessa Street, Sakim Road to get to Sheikh Zayed Road. And I think with the latest launches, offline launches, these are definitely areas that are going to get the focus because they are on Mohammed bin Zayed Road. And I think that's the next corridor that people are going to build out on.
Is there zoning about where you can build offices, where you can build residential?
So typically they sell land. If you look at a lot of these communities, they've sort of segmented it into residential, commercial, villas, community-wise. Pretty much every community has some sort of spell of commercial. A lot of these plots have just been sat dormant for the last 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden, I mean, I was amazed with Marjan. I think we've had 4 launches in Marjan already. And I know there's another 2 or 3 coming up. And I would never have thought of Marjan being a commercial sort of district, but I mean, it's right in front of Al Barari. It's on Mohammed bin Zayed Road. You've got Global Village on the other side, Arabian Ranches on not far from there. And you look at that whole corridor. Motor City, we've had 3 or 4 commercial buildings. We've just added another 2 or 2 about to start construction along there. So that takes us up to sort of 5 or 6 in Motor City. And I sort of feel that those communities are going to supply a lot of the communities that are further out. So your Mira Oasis, your Mudons, your Damak Hills, and now with all of the new Emar Oasis, the new Damak Lagoons, there needs to be a push for commercial space in those communities.
Which is great if your employees, can live around you, but your customers aren't necessarily going to live around you.
And a lot of companies don't necessarily have customers visiting them on a daily basis, and their sales force will be able to work from those communities into the city. So I don't think a lot of them necessarily need to be on Sheikh Zayed Road, and that's where I think there's a lot of companies that maybe people feel, why do we need to be in the city? We're not there on a daily basis doing business. We can operate from a community. We don't necessarily need to be there. Our staff don't need to be stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road, the commutes and the taxis. But at the end of the day, I also look at it and think at some stage we've got to catch up with the infrastructure of metro lines.
Which is a very good point. People will be examining the future metro maps very carefully, I expect. Does that put a premium on offices?
I think it will. There's one building that's about to launch in JVC, which looks like it's going to be right on the metro station next to Circle Mall. And I sort of feel that building will definitely sort of garner some sort of premium. We've got a new building launching on Business Bay right on the metro station as well. And the prices that they're looking on that one are quite punchy. But when you look at the accessibility to Business Bay and you can avoid that accessibility and have full metro access, I sort of feel that maybe those prices are warranted.
What other questions, other than getting in and out and am I near a metro, are companies asking you? Parking, for example.
Parking's obviously a huge one. And I think at the moment in Dubai, that's probably the 3 main questions is parking, metros, accessibility. And I think those are always, as they always say in real estate, location, location, location. And it comes back to that again.
What about the busyness of the building and the lift wait times?
At the moment, like I say, we're sort of running around, I think commercial buildings are about at 95% occupancy. So a lot of the buildings are sort of probably operating a lot higher than they should be. I think if you go into most buildings at the moment, we're sort of seeing long waits on on elevators. And I think it would be great to get all of this off-plan space in. It will hopefully alleviate the pressure on the office space. But again, a lot of the space is not going to hand over for 2 years, 3 years. So it's going to be 2027, 2028 before we see the space. So unfortunately, we've still got another 2 years of struggles.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Andrew Elliott is the director of the commercial agency for Chesterton's. They've seen a 50% surge in commercial leasing in Q1 of this year compared to Q1 of last. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.